This is the process of coloring in the first few pages of Action Geometry. I take the standard color palette from Crayola, and first I color in the front cover. This assumes you already have the front cover inked. And I like to color it in with the colors of the rainbow, Roy G. Biv, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and purple. In that order. You can have a fuller spectrum if you want, or some other color scheme if you have a very, very large number of crayons. There's no reason this has to be crayons. All of the coloring here, I use crayons because I think they have a really nice color, and I'm not that great at coloring, so I use crayons. But you can use colored pencils. It doesn't look quite as sharp depending on what colored pencils you have. This would look great with something really sharp like oils or acrylics or something, but I don't work with that stuff. So this is 2x speed. This whole process, according to the wall clock, took about 14 minutes, 12 minutes, something in that range. And then I've sped up the parts where I'm actually coloring to 2x speed and edited out a bunch of stuff where I was going through piles of things to try to figure out what I was doing next. But even with that, it was about 12 minutes. There's the cover. Now I do the shapes, starting with the first one, which is the triangle divided up into four total triangles. The red one in the middle, yellow one on top. There's nothing special about that, but I just like this color scheme. Blue and then green, just because there's such solid colors. And if you use the Crayola crayons, I really like that color scheme, and I use it over and over and over again. It's very symbolic of Action Geometry. That's part of the whole point of these first 3 pages, is just establish repetition of these symbols, which I think are the most core for Action Geometry. They're something that indicates symbolically that something is Action Geometry. They're something that I use as icons online to indicate it. I paint rocks like this. It's almost like a logo or a coat of arms. I do it over and over and over again. But it also communicates the basic ideas, the most important of the central ideas of Action Geometry, which is these symmetries. The symmetry of an equilateral triangle based on 60 degrees, the square based on 90 degrees, and the golden triangle, which we'll get to in a minute. Again, this is all sped up by exactly 2x. So I finished that. There it is. Triangle and square. And now I'm working on the golden triangle and the golden gnomon, which are based on the golden ratio and are very closely related to the golden rectangle, the golden spiral, number of other things like that. And so this will be better documented in other places, including the book itself. Presumably you have a copy in front of you. And you can see what the color scheme is here. I tend to make the golden triangles golden, that is to say yellow, and then color in the golden gnomons red, and I have a limited amount of fractal subtriangles. And then this next triangle here is a half of a square cut diagonally. So that gives you the idea of the square root of 2 scaling and 45-degree symmetry, which is one of the next most important pairs of scaling and symmetry in Action Geometry. I like to color it in with pink and blue instead of purple and blue, because it's very similar to a square, but a little different. It's kind of the next. And there it is, that page, page 2. So then for the next page, everything is about the square root of 3 scaling. So this is where you take equilateral triangles and you cut them up and do things with them to understand why the square root of 3 is something we see over and over and over and over again. And it is. The square root of 3, the square root of 2, the golden ratio, and the actual number 2. These are the scales that we use over and over and over in Action Geometry. It's really, if I communicate nothing else with this book, it's that these scales can do an incredible amount of work for you, whether you're doing art, engineering, science, design, layout on a computer, layout by hand, trying to pass geometry tests. In all cases, these are just incredibly important. And so this is all square root of 3 scaling. This triangle lets you go down by root 3, root 3, root 3 over and over again so that you can really see what root 3 does for you. And this is the 3rd page. The 3rd of the 3 pages covered in this video. And there it is. We're done.